name is Felicia Wright, and this is the Go Rogue podcast. Do you feel stuck? Does every day feel like Groundhog's Day? Well, I'm here to tell you it's time to take charge of your life and know that you are meant for more than this. It's time to go rogue. This podcast is for people that are ready to say enough is enough and discover their new normal with entrepreneurship. Get ready because your rogue journey starts now. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to the Go Rogue podcast. Today I have another phenomenal woman that is here to share her story. I have the amazing Mia Francis-Poulin. She is the owner of R&A Creative Company, a digital marketing agency, and she is also the host of Mama Build Your Empire. And that podcast is a podcast that's dedicated to mom bosses who are growing their business while raising their kids with special needs. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I am super excited, and it's kind of weird being on the other side of the podcast screen, but I'm super excited to be here. So thank you.
Yeah, I completely understand. Right before we hopped on here, I said I got interviewed and it was so bizarre being interviewed as opposed to interviewing somebody else. So I completely understand.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and get started. So go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about you and your background.
Yes. So I am the owner of R&A Creative Company, and I started that company after about almost 10 years in corporate digital marketing. So I'd worked for a variety of different corporations and organizations, different sizes, some publicly traded, some smaller businesses, small and medium-sized businesses. And I've worked primarily in digital marketing since 2009. And I love it. I don't even really know how I landed in marketing. I didn't go and study business or study marketing. I was an English major.
Oh,
and
wow.
and I actually thought that I was going to be a book publisher. So I actually went to New York. I attended the Columbia Publishing course, which was a phenomenal course because I thought, I'm going to be a book editor is what I'm going to do. Went to New York, decided I did not want to live in New York. I was very Southern. I'm from New Orleans. That's my home. And I live in Texas. And so I hightailed it back to Texas and I got a job very randomly in marketing. Wow. And I started out as in copywriting because I'd been writing for the web for a while, and started out in copywriting for product descriptions and catalog copy. And I was like, I love this. I want to do this forever. And I tried my hand at a couple different businesses. And then my firstborn was born. And my eldest is 3, and he was born at 27 weeks. Yes, he was 1 pound, 11 ounces when he was born, and he spent 292 days in the hospital. And he is amazing. We call him our Roman warrior. His name is Roman. Yeah. And yes, and he's an amazing child. He's faced so much and honestly has come close to almost losing his battle numerous times, but he's always pulled out. And honestly, that his birth, just like with any birth of a child, it changed my life, but it also changed my career path in a number of ways, because I had to take a year off work, not to necessarily be home bonding. It was me taking off work because he's on a ventilator in the NICU and I can't leave his side. Not that I wanted to. And so I took time off from work, and when he finally did come home, he came home with a trach, a ventilator, oxygen, 24-hour nursing, feeding tubes, like this whole new world of, I have a medically fragile child.
Yeah.
And now today he's 3, and he's pretty much like any other 3-year-old that you would have running around. Like he's obsessed with toy cars, and he's the smartest kid I've literally ever known. But I mean, little biased, I'm his mom, but I think he's brilliant. But he's also autistic. He was just recently diagnosed with autism. And so that started a new journey for us and for my family and for me personally. And so I did go back to work in corporate after he came home. I was home with him for about 4 weeks before I started another position with a large publicly traded company. And I was managing 7 different corporate brands as overseeing their digital content strategy and content creation. And it was a challenge because I was on all the time. And if there was something, like we had several different conventions that we hosted, and there was always content that had to be created at a high volume. And I was coming up with the strategies for each brand, which each one is individual. They're all different. And it was super stressful. And while I loved it, I love creating content. I love the digital marketing world. Like that's just my jam. I realized that I wanted something slower paced. I needed it because at the same time, while I'm running, doing these 7 different brands, my son's still getting sick and he's still having to go to the hospital every once in a while. And there was a period in time where, I'm on my work laptop, I'm trying to get things sent over, and I'm standing next to his bed while he's sick in the hospital with rhinovirus. And the doctor's trying to talk to me to get him better and, tell me the plan, while I'm also like, yep, I got it. Like try to send off emails and get the work done that way. And so that's when I noticed that I needed to make a change. And so I thought that time that change was going to a smaller company. So I did go, I was offered a position with increased responsibility, but one brand, which was, I was just kind of like, all right, one brand, I got that. Like, that's fine. And it was amazing. I realized that I loved working with smaller companies, and that was kind of where I felt the most comfortable. The one brand thing, I was kind of like, okay, let's get a little bit more things to manage at that time. But I knew that I liked that work environment. And then from there, the universe said, you're not, this still is not where you're going to stay. So,
really? What was popping up for you?
So all of a sudden, things started getting weird. So I had been there for a while, and I was able to take family medical leave, which if you're working with a company that has so many employees and you're there for about a year or something, I think that's the law, you're able to take FMLA, and it's 12 weeks unpaid time, which unpaid. That's great. Not really. Yeah. But, I did like the job protection. And so my son was getting sick really, really frequently, and more so than usual, because he still has, even though he's your average kid, he still has lung disease. His diagnosis is chronic lung disease or bronchopulmonary dysplasia, and basically it's a fancy way of saying he has scarring and inflammation kind of chronically in his lungs. So that's why when he gets sick with stuff like regular stuff like a cold, the common cold, he gets sicker than the average bear. And so I was having to take off. I was having to use the leave. And once it got to the point where I was actually having to use the leave, things were, it wasn't as sustainable. And I think that was because, one, I was in a position where I had more responsibilities, but also because there weren't as many people as in my last position, because, there were other people on my team that could pick up a little bit of the slack if I wasn't there. And, I was always trying my best to maintain and stay ahead. And that's why the one thing that I get started for my clients first is automation. How can we systematize things so that things can go running when you can't? So, but anyway, and then, the universe just was kind of like, it's time for you to leave. So my son kept getting sick, and I was at work one day and I get a call from his home health nurse, because he has home health nursing. She's like, Roman is going to Children's Hospital via ambulance right now. And I'm literally stepping foot into a meeting when I get this call, and I'm just like, nope, gone. So I missed the meeting, and I sent a text to my boss, and I was like, this is what's happening. And I was gone, and that's what needed to happen. And they understood. And I think that employers, they understand when you're going through something like that, they get it, but they also, not that they didn't care, but stuff still needed to happen, which I get.
It makes sense.
And then the following week, my youngest son, because I also have a 7-month-old, I get a call from his daycare provider. His femur is broken. His femur.
What?
Yes.
Wait, so did they take him to the hospital to know that? Like,
no, I took him to the hospital. Girl, that's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother podcast episode. But yes, his femur was broken. And that was incredibly traumatizing because when you drop your kids off at daycare with, a licensed daycare facility, you expect them to be healthy and how you pick them up, how you dropped them off,
Yes. Yeah.
So you don't expect that they would have their, strongest bone in their body broken, And so that was another thing. And he was in a harness for 3 weeks.
What?
And yes. And then
wait. So this happened at daycare?
At daycare. Yes.
I would not be calm. Like, it would be bad.
Felicia, all I remember, so the ER doctor, he pulls me out of the room because my husband is there. He's holding the baby. And my husband, he's always bright side of life kind of guy. Like, and I love him to death because he balances me because I'm real high strung sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I'm better in my older age. But, sometimes I can be really, I can be a challenge. And I remember the doctor pulled me out of the room and took me around to the station where they had the x-rays up. Mm-hmm. And I just walked to the computer and I gasped and I felt the air just trap up into my neck. And his bones were in 2 complete pieces.
Wow.
And yes. And it was a spiral fracture, and I'm sure that there are some people who are listening to this will know kind of the implications of a spiral fracture, and all the implications on that. That's all I'll say on that. But they were broken in 2 complete pieces, and I think all I remember is I was sitting down next. I don't know how I got to sitting, mm-hmm. and doctor was like, "Will you be okay?" And I just was yelling, "Police! Police! I need the police!"
Yes. A baby.
Yes, too. 7 months old. So yeah, it was really a traumatic thing. And everything in my gut was just like, I can't go back to work. I need to take care of my kids. Mm-hmm. And so prior to that and leading up to that, because I was listening to the universe all throughout, probably in about October of 2017, I was deciding that I need to start being responsible for my own income and making my own money. And so that's when I decided to start RNA Creative, but it was my side hustle. It was the thing I did on the side. And so I was freelancing and, I started all the kinds of ways. I tried everything out. I tried Upwork. Upwork. It can be so great for so many things, but it was interesting for me.
Yeah, didn't you get really good at Upwork at one point?
I did. I got top rated on Upwork and I was making all this money. And then all of a sudden I got these weirdos, like very strange individuals. And they were all wanting to take the work off Upwork, and Upwork didn't like that. And mm-hmm. It was just a struggle. And then I finally got really tired of them taking such a large chunk of my earnings, because when it came down to it, between Upwork fees, PayPal transfer fees.
Oh yeah.
I was not getting I was getting maybe 60% of what I earned.
Oh, no.
65, 70, something like that. It wasn't all of it, and it added up. And so, so that was a struggle. And then I started reaching out to different creative agencies, seeing if they had overflow. And that was actually pretty lucrative for me. Mm-hmm. And then I decided I wanted to put the strategy background that I've had for the past several years and put that to use. And so I really focused all in on RNA Creative and helping specifically female entrepreneurs in developing their branding and coming up with smart, scalable go-to-market strategies. Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm at now. That's what I've been doing for the last several months. And it's everything that I've needed, because once I did make that decision to leave, it was really a lesson in stepping out on faith because I'd had my exit strategy, which is something that I talk about with a lot of people, is developing your exit strategy, like making the decision that you're going to leave, being intentional, and deciding how that's going to be and how that's going to look, because, mm-hmm. The bills don't stop. That's something my husband had always told me. He was like, okay, you want to be free, you want to do that, but the bills don't stop. And So now, my husband is the most supportive person on the planet. He believes in me when I don't, which I'm just like,
Yeah.
Everybody needs a pep talk. You and kid president, let's do this.
Right? Love kid president.
Yes, love kid president. And so, so my husband's really supportive, and I knew that I needed an exit strategy, but my exit strategy was December, and instead it was 3 months earlier. And so 3.5 months earlier. So
what pushed you to actually go rogue? What pushed you?
Honestly, it was my kids getting injured, my kids getting sick, and being still enough to listen to the universe saying, hey, pluck me on the forehead. It's time to make a move.
Now's the time.
Yes, because for a long time, even though Roman had, he'd come home, he'd always been sick and had the tendency to get really sick really frequently. I was still able to maintain my work at with my job and maintain my family life. And it got to the point where I felt that my life was out of harmony. And I know a lot of people, they talk about work-life balance. I really believe in work-life harmony. And so and that's something from Lisa Nichols, who's like, she's my imaginary mentor. She's like, doesn't know Adam, but I love Lisa Nichols. And so she talks about in one of her books, Abundance Now, about work-life harmony. And my life, both in my personal life and in my work life, was so disharmonious. Like it wasn't... I wasn't doing very well at either. And so even though I was getting stuff done at work, I felt like I wasn't being fair to them because I was dreading every day that I was there because I was so fearful and so anxious that something was going to happen to one of my children. Yeah. I was so anxious that I was going to get another call that Roman's at the ER and this is what's going to happen we don't know what's happening because there have been several children like my son that I know because I'm pretty connected within the community, within the medically fragile community, the autism community, the trach community, and children do lose their battles sometimes. And that's always something like, no one wants to think about the mortality of their children, but it's a real thing that my son could get the flu or he could get RSV or he could get, which he actually had. We actually spent a week in the PICU for respiratory failure for RSV like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I remember.
And any one of those things could take him out. And that's terrifying for me. And it would be terrifying for any parent. It really would. But that's something that I have in the back of my mind. And I really I wanted both to not have that fear that I'm not there for my children how I want to be, but also to be able to enjoy every moment with my children, because they're only young. They're only going to be this age once. And especially for my son, for Roman, but also, with AJ having his leg broken, that also kind of scared the poop out of me too, Yes. I know, child, look.
I know, like if you guys could see our faces right now, we're on Zoom, we're like giving each other the look like, oh man.
That mom looked like, what happened?
Yes, so, you can see our faces.
Yes. And so, I wanted to be able to truly live the life that I wanted to live and to be able to be there for my children, to design my day and design my workload how I wanted it. And now I am living that. I have my clients, I'm doing my work, I'm doing things like this and being able to get visible how I want to without the fear that my employer is going to come back with some contract saying, this is violating some type of intellectual property thing, which is something they try to do, but
Oh man.
Yes, so.
I love that you bring up these things that like, we just don't talk about.
Yeah.
Because it's just, when things happen to us, we're in our corner and it's like, well, it feels like it's just happening to us, like employers doing whatever. And when we actually speak up and tell our truth, it's like, hey, we are not alone, because that's where we get hung up, is feeling alone. Don't you think? Like feeling alone in like the mess or whatever is happening to us.
Yes, yes, I definitely agree. And that's why I started my podcast of Mama Build Your Empire, because within the special needs community, especially, there's a real crisis happening.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the statistics, so moms who have kids with special needs, they are 40% more likely to actually die of cancer, 150% more likely to die of cardiovascular disease. Moms, the mothers, yes.
Wow.
Yes. They're 200. Yes, they're 200% more likely to die of misadventure, which is like things like suicides and accidents. And so there really is a crisis specifically to the moms who are raising the kids with special needs, because there's not people talking about us. We're so focused on our children's disorders, which is appropriate. That is appropriate to talk about, raising awareness for autism and for chronic lung disease and prematurity, because, we want to pay attention to those things, to the afflicted. But those things also affect the families too, and they directly affect the mothers. And so I knew that from being in these different groups, the moms who are raising these kids, they are suffering from real, what do they call it? Lost opportunity is the idea. The idea that they are not able to work because they are caring for their children. The statistics are showing that they have more absenteeism. They're underemployed. They're chronically unemployed. And there is this need and this desire from other moms who are like me, who have careers and who are wanting to do something creatively for themselves, as themselves rather than for someone else. And that's what Mama Build Your Empire is about. It's to celebrate those moms who are wanting to build businesses, who are in business, who are also raising their kids with special needs, because we matter. We do matter, and we're in trouble, and people need to pay attention to that. There need to be more resources for moms who are raising kids with special needs to uplift us and to give us a space and give us a moment, because we need it.
Yeah. And to be honest, the statistics that you said and the things that you said is bringing awareness to a niche. I'm just using niche for lack of a better word, that people just don't understand. So for me as a mom, my children, I don't have any special needs children. I've never lost a child, but my sister has lost a child. Yeah. And some of the things that she says, while I'm there for her and I'm as supportive as I can be, I don't understand because it's never happened to me. And then with the special need, parents with special needs children, as a teacher, the parents that I dealt with, and they tell me some of the things that they were going through, while I can be there for them and be supportive, I just don't understand. So hearing the knowledge that you just dropped is just helpful for me as a person, so I can understand other people that are in those situations. And I think that is so important, because people on the outside looking in, or have family members in that situation, we don't get it. And it's not because we don't want to get it. It's just, we just don't have that knowledge base.
Right. You don't have the information. And that's why this is so important to me. Mama Build Your Empire, the podcast, and I also have a Facebook group. That's why it's so important to me, is because we aren't talking about it. In the larger world, we can't really fault the larger world for not knowing, because nobody's talking about it.
No one's talking about it. Yep.
That's why I'm raising my voice and I'm talking about it, because, as a mom of a special needs child, I poignantly understand how easy it is to lose myself in all of it, because it's a lot to deal with. There's the being re-traumatized whenever there's a new hospitalization or a new diagnosis or whatever. And then there's just the everyday that we have to deal with. My son, he has several different therapies every week. He has breathing treatments all the time, and having to be on guard and vigilant, thinking, okay, does he have, is he going into respiratory distress right now? Do I need to give him nebulizers or oxygen? And it's a lot to have to deal with. And it's not, and I say that not to say that my life is bad or anything. I actually have a very good life. I feel very, very blessed.
Yeah.
I feel so blessed. I really do. And I just use it all to fuel my my desire and my quest to help others, because that's at the core of who I am. I'm always wanting to help other people, and educating, because I'm at my core, I thought I was going to be an English teacher one day too, and that didn't work, but I like it. I like teaching people things, and seeing that spark when people are getting what I'm talking about. But also to just live my best life, and to live a life, for me, that includes being there for my children as much as I can, and to be their support and be their advocate, and to be able to design my day and design my time that works for my family, which is ultimately the most important thing in my life.
Yeah. I just have to say that I am really in awe of you right now. Like, what you're doing is amazing. And I am so excited for what you're doing, for what you're going to, your impact, to be completely honest, because like what you're saying is like, that's my passion for Go Rogue, but in a different light of like people that need to choose themselves and go rogue from a job that's no longer serving them.
Yeah.
But your journey and your story is so, it's going to change lives. So I'm super excited to see how big your podcast grows. Seriously.
Yes. Well, thank you. From your mouth to God's ears, because my main goal is if I could reach just one special needs mom who is feeling hopeless, because I've been at that point where everything felt overwhelming, and I've been in the depths of despair, depression from it. And if I could just have my podcast help her to know that there is hope, and that there are choices, that life can get better, and that it can be manageable, then I've done my job. I've done what I wanted to do. So I appreciate you.
No, I mean it from the bottom of my heart, because I feel like women, we are so good at getting things done and taking care of our family and just putting our head down and just getting it done. But then we never look up to take a breath of fresh air and to ask for help. So what you're doing with Rogue Women, like, this is really what's going to make an impact on women in general. So that's really, really exciting. I love that. Oh, I love that. I got chills. Like,
yes, right?
That's awesome. Yeah. Cause us out there, like, some people just can't relate. So we need that knowledge dropped on us to really understand. Yeah. So I think I have one more question for you. So what would you say is the number one piece of advice you would give to a woman that's struggling, that wants to start her rogue journey, especially those special needs moms, or that have special needs kids?
I would say that anything is possible. So I know from my experience that I tended to think that, oh, that's for someone else, or, like starting my business. I used to think, oh, I'm not the business starting type of person. Like, that's for other people who have gone to business school, or, who have all this, access capital and all that stuff. Yeah. And then when I realized, and I stepped back and I got out of my own way and figured out a way that was scalable for me to start my business, that's when like amazing things started to happen. So I would say, knowing that anything is possible, and keeping your eye on the prize, like keeping your eyes open, and just having a goal and going for it, So, cause I had a goal. I had several goals, but I had so many of them. So sorry, I'm going to start quoting Secret Life of Pets. That's a mom moment. That's a mom moment. But no, I had a goal that I wanted to start this business, and I knew who I wanted to serve. And I knew that I had another goal of starting this podcast, and I didn't know anything about starting a podcast. I just knew I liked them. I liked listening to them. And I had this idea of who I wanted to serve, and the rest of the details worked themselves out as things started unfolding. So yeah, just looking forward and knowing that anything's possible.
Yeah. I love that you said that, because I think we all get hung up in well, that's for other people. Like you said, mm-hmm. I'm not Donald Trump with the trust fund, or I'm not this person. I'm not this person. So It's having the courage to actually step out and live your truth and giving it a go, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And embracing who you are too. Like for a long time, I really resisted that I'm a mom with a kid with special needs, like that mantle, like picking up that backpack. I really resisted that. But once I started living authentically and I started saying, hey, this is my mess. It's my beautiful mess. I'm carrying all of it and it is what it is. That also changed everything. Because I think it was one of those energetic blocks that was just keeping me from achieving things. And once I stepped into that too. Yeah, that also did it. So there's 3 things in there. You only asked for one, but it's all good.
That's so true, because like when I first started, I don't even understand why. I didn't want anybody to know I was a teacher in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I don't even know why. Like I not that I was ashamed, but that people wouldn't take me seriously. So I like that you brought that up. It's like, just be you. And to be honest, on accident, I'm just kind of known as the former teacher in some circles.
Yeah.
And it wasn't something that I put out. People are just like, oh yeah, she was teaching. She doesn't teach anymore. So it's like, even though you're known for something, that's you and that's your thing. And that's okay. It's just a piece of you.
Right. For sure. Yeah. For sure.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Mia. I want you to let everybody know where they can find you. Tell us all about your podcast, the whole bit. Give us all the details.
So you can find me on Facebook or on Instagram at Mia the Marketer, and you can listen to the podcast. And I would encourage you, if you are a special needs mom and you're raising your kids with special needs and you are growing a business, listen to the Mama Build Your Empire podcast. Sorry, Felicia, I'm going to just plug this in right there.
Yes, plug away.
And so you can listen to it at www.mamabuildyourempire.com or on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, pretty much anywhere that you listen to your podcast, you can find the Mama Build Your Empire podcast. And a new episode drops every Monday. So tune in on Mondays or listen to the whole backlog. I would welcome all of it. So yeah, that's where people can find me.
Yay. And all that stuff is going to be in the show notes. So if you're driving or whatever, just look on the show notes, and it also will be on my blog. So people will be able to find you very easily. So no worries there. So thank you so much, Mia, for being a part of this podcast. I honestly am in love with what you're doing. And I know the impact that you're going to make is huge. So I'm really excited about that.
Yes. Thank you so much, Felicia. I really appreciate your invitation. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. If you're a rogue woman out there and you want to forge your journey, definitely head over to the Go Rogue community at bit.ly/rogue community, where there's other women forging their rogue journey. So go out there and slay the day. Thanks for dropping by.